February 18th, 1944. Northern France. 11 a.m. The sky is low, heavy, gray. At less than 20 meters above the ground, 3 aircraft cut through the air like blades. No formation lights, no warning, no margin for error. They are not heading for a factory, not a rail yard, not a German base. Their target is a prison. Inside are over 700 prisoners. Resistance fighters, civilians, informants, men already marked for execution. And the pilots know something chilling. If they miss by even a few meters, they won't be rescuing anyone. They'll be executing them. The aircraft are made mostly of wood. Light, fast, fragile. Each carries bombs designed to break walls, not bodies. But physics doesn't negotiate. Concrete shatters, shock waves travel, and human bodies don't survive mistakes. There are no smart weapons, no laser guidance, no second chances, only timing, speed, and impossible precision. They drop even 1 second too early, prisoners die. 1 second too late, guards regroup. This mission should not exist. And yet, it does. Because somewhere, someone made a decision. It is better to risk killing them than to leave them alive. The lead pilot tightens his grip. Below him, rooftops blur past. Telephone wires flash inches beneath the wings. A church tower appears, too close, then vanishes. Ahead, the prison walls rise. Massive, cold, final. Inside those walls, men are waiting. Some believe rescue is coming. Most don't. None of them know that salvation is arriving at 400 kilometers per hour. The first bomb doors begin to open, and in that moment, everything depends on one question. How do you bomb a prison without killing the people inside? The prison sits on the outskirts of Amiens, a quiet town under occupation. From the outside, it looks like any other fortress of control. High concrete walls, guard towers at every corner, barbed wire layered like scars across the perimeter. But inside, it's something else entirely. This isn't just a prison, it's a bottleneck, a holding point for the French resistance. Men and women pulled from underground networks, captured couriers, saboteurs, code carriers, people who know too much, and the clock is ticking. Because in just days, many of them will be executed, interrogated first, broken if possible, shot if not. The Germans are tightening control. Every captured resistance member is a thread. Pull enough threads, the entire network unravels. That's the real target, not the prisoners. The information inside their heads. Which means, from a strategic perspective, those people are already lost, expendable, unless something changes. The aircraft streaking toward the prison belong to the Royal Air Force. But these are not ordinary bombers. They are mosquitoes, fast, silent, built for precision, nicknamed the Wooden Wonder. No heavy armor, no defensive guns, because they don't plan to get hit. They plan to not be seen at all, flying low enough to disappear beneath radar, fast enough to outrun interception. But today, speed isn't enough. Today, they have to be perfect. Each pilot has studied the prison layout, measured distances, counted seconds. They know which wall to hit, which building to avoid, where prisoners are likely held. But knowledge doesn't erase reality. They are about to drop high explosives into a confined space filled with their own allies. And no one, not even command, can guarantee what happens next. On paper, the objective is simple. Break the walls, create chaos, give prisoners a chance to escape. But reality doesn't follow paper. Explosions don't choose sides. Shock waves don't recognize allies. And once the bombs fall, there's no controlling what happens inside those walls. Some prisoners will run, some will freeze, some will die before they even understand what's happening. And somewhere above it all, pilots will be forced to make decisions in seconds that determine who lives and who doesn't. So the question becomes heavier, darker, more uncomfortable. This wasn't just a rescue mission. It was a calculation, a trade, lives for a chance at something bigger, and no one outside that cockpit will ever fully know if the price was worth it. France, 1944. Occupation is no longer a phase, it's a system. The streets of Amiens look calm from a distance. Cafes still open, shops still trade. But underneath, everything is fractured. Every conversation is measured. Every glance carries risk. Because the enemy isn't just outside, it's everywhere. The Germans don't just control territory, they control information, and information is hunted. The Gestapo operates quietly, efficiently, no uniforms needed. A knock at the door at night, a name called in the street. A man disappears, no trial, no explanation, just silence. And inside that silence, networks begin to collapse. Because the French resistance isn't one group, it's dozens, maybe hundreds, small cells, isolated, each one knowing just enough, but never the full picture. It's designed that way, so if one breaks, the rest survive. But the system has a flaw. If enough people are captured, patterns emerge, names repeat, routes intersect, codes unravel, and suddenly, the invisible war becomes visible. That's where the prison comes in, not as a place of punishment, but as a machine, a processing center. Captured resistance fighters are brought here, not to be held, but to be used. Interrogation first, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Sleep deprivation, isolation, pressure applied in ways that don't leave marks. Because information extracted cleanly is more valuable than information forced. And if that fails, execution. Quick, efficient, final. But timing matters, because executions aren't random. They're scheduled, coordinated. And in early 1944, something changes. The lists grow longer. The dates move closer. British intelligence begins picking up fragments, intercepted messages, whispers from informants, reports smuggled out through broken channels. Individually, nothing is clear, but together, they form a pattern. Dozens of resistance members are being held in one place, and many of them are scheduled to die. Soon. Not months, not weeks, days. And among them are people who know critical things. Drop zones, code systems, names of operatives still active. If those people are executed, the network loses its memory. But if they're broken first, the network doesn't just weaken, it collapses. There are options, on paper. A ground assault? Too slow, too visible. German reinforcements would arrive before extraction is complete. A covert rescue? Unrealistic. The prison is heavily guarded. Too many unknowns inside. Negotiation? Not even considered. Because this isn't a battlefield problem. It's a timing problem. The prisoners don't need to be freed eventually. They need to be freed now, before interrogation finishes, before execution orders are carried out, before silence becomes permanent. There are options, on paper. A ground assault? Too slow, too visible. German reinforcements would arrive before extraction is complete. A covert rescue? Unrealistic. The prison is heavily guarded. Too many unknowns inside. Negotiation? Not even considered. Because this isn't a battlefield problem. It's a timing problem. The prisoners don't need to be freed eventually. They need to be freed now, before interrogation finishes, before execution orders are carried out, before silence becomes permanent. Somewhere inside British command, a different kind of thought emerges. Not louder, not official, just dangerous. What if you don't attack the guards? What if you don't fight your way in? What if you break the structure itself? Not destroy it entirely, just enough. Crack the walls, disrupt the system, create chaos from above. A surgical strike, not to kill, but to open. It sounds absurd, because bombing is not precise, not in 1944. Bombing is blunt, violent, uncontrolled. You drop explosives and accept the consequences. But this idea demands something different. It demands control, in a system built on chaos. And then, something stranger appears. A question that doesn't have a clear answer. Who exactly pushed this idea forward? Because the records don't align perfectly. Some point to the Royal Air Force. Others hint at intelligence branches, possibly even coordination with resistance contacts on the ground. But there's no single, clean origin, which creates an uncomfortable possibility. This wasn't just about rescue. There may have been another objective, one that was never fully written down, because if certain prisoners were at risk of revealing critical intelligence, then destroying the prison also destroys the problem, permanently. No interrogation, no leaks, no compromised networks, just silence, clean, irreversible. So now the mission changes shape. It's no longer just save the prisoners. It becomes prevent what they might reveal. And those two goals are not the same, because one prioritizes lives, the other prioritizes outcomes. And in war, those lines blur faster than anyone wants to admit. Time collapses, weather windows shrink, intelligence becomes outdated by the hour. Every delay increases the risk. Every hesitation costs something unseen. And eventually, the idea that once sounded impossible becomes the only remaining option. Not because it's safe, not because it's reliable, but because everything else has already failed before even being attempted. But this creates a new problem, a bigger one. Because even if the plan moves forward, even if the pilots reach the target, even if the bombs land exactly where they should, there is still something no one can solve. What happens in the seconds after impact, when fear, confusion, and survival all collide inside a collapsing prison? Part 3. The problem. On paper. The mission sounds simple. Break the walls, let them run. But reality doesn't work like that. Because this isn't just a prison. It's a controlled environment. Every wall has a purpose. Every corridor is designed to contain movement. Every second inside that structure is controlled by someone with a weapon. And the moment bombs hit, control doesn't disappear. It fractures. The prison is built like a box. Thick outer walls, inner cell blocks, narrow corridors. To free the prisoners, you don't just need to hit a wall. You need to hit the right wall. Too far outside, you damage the perimeter. But prisoners remain locked inside. Too far inside, you collapse the cells and bury the people you're trying to save. And there's more. Each bomb carries a delay fuse. Detonating on impact would waste the blast outward, so they're timed to explode after penetrating. Which means even a perfectly placed bomb can still kill the wrong people. This is 1944. There is no GPS, no guided targeting systems, no real-time correction. Bombing accuracy is measured in tens of meters, on a good day, and that's from altitude. But this mission, it demands precision within a few meters, at extreme speed, at low altitude, through unpredictable weather. At that level, physics becomes the enemy. Air resistance, wind drift, human reaction time. A pilot traveling at 400 kilometers per hour covers over 100 meters per second. That means a delay of just 1 second moves the impact point by the length of a football field. 1 second. That's the margin. Even if the bombs hit perfectly, what happens next is worse. Because the prison doesn't just open like a door. It breaks. Walls collapse unevenly. Debris blocks exits. Smoke fills corridors. Prisoners don't see a clear path. They see chaos. Some will run toward the breach. Others will hesitate. Some won't even realize what's happening until it's already over. And the guards? They don't disappear. They react. Fast. Rifles drawn. Orders shouted. Escape routes covered. Which means the window for escape isn't minutes. It's seconds. War plans assume movement. But humans don't always move, especially under shock. Imagine sitting in a cell, cold, silent, waiting. Then suddenly, an explosion. Walls shaking, dust choking the air, screams echoing through corridors. Your first instinct isn't escape. It's confusion, fear, freeze. And that hesitation, it's deadly, because outside, the opportunity is already closing. The German forces inside aren't untrained. They're disciplined, conditioned for control. And they know one thing immediately. This isn't random bombing. It's targeted, which means an escape attempt is coming. So they respond accordingly. Lockdown protocols, kill zones, containment. Anyone running becomes a target. Anyone hesitating becomes trapped. And anyone injured is left behind. Now shift perspective. Back to the air. Inside the cockpit of a de Havilland Mosquito, there is no overhead view, no full map, just a fast-moving landscape and a target that appears for seconds. The pilot has to identify the prison, align trajectory, maintain altitude, avoid obstacles, time the release, all while flying low enough to hit wires, trees, rooftops. There is no margin to circle back, no time for correction. One pass, that's it. And once the bombs are released, the pilot becomes a spectator, unable to adjust, unable to fix anything, just hoping that everything they calculated was right. Even if everything works, perfect flight, perfect timing, perfect impact, there is still something uncontrollable. Chance, randomness. A bomb hits a weak point instead of a strong one. A wall collapses inward instead of outward. A corridor fills with debris instead of clearing. And suddenly, the entire mission shifts from rescue to disaster. This is where the real imbalance appears. The Germans control the ground, the structure, the timing of executions. They are strong, organized, prepared. The British, they control one moment, one strike, one opportunity. If it fails, there is no second attempt, no follow-up mission, no recovery, just consequences. This isn't a rescue operation, not in the traditional sense. It's a gamble, a calculated risk where success equals partial survival, failure equals mass death. And the worst part, even success includes failure, because no version of this plan ends without casualties. So now the problem becomes absolute. How do you design a mission where even success requires sacrifice? And more importantly, who decides which lives are acceptable to lose? If brute force can't work, then the only option left is control. Not control over the outcome. That's impossible. But control over the variables: speed, altitude, angle, timing. Every element must be engineered to reduce chaos. The mission doesn't go to heavy bombers. Too slow, too high, too inaccurate. Instead, it goes to the Mosquito. The de Havilland Mosquito is different. Built from wood, lightweight, fast enough to outrun most interceptors. But its real advantage? Precision. It can fly low, extremely low, below radar, below expectation. At that altitude, the target isn't abstract. It's visible, real, close enough to hit with intent. Normal bombing happens thousands of meters above ground. This mission, under 20 meters. At that height, you don't drop bombs, you place them. But the cost is extreme. Telephone wires become obstacles. Trees become hazards. Buildings become walls you can't avoid. There's no buffer, no recovery space. If a pilot misjudges by even a fraction, they don't miss the target. They crash before reaching it. The prison isn't hit all at once. It's divided into phases. Each wave has a specific job. First wave, break the outer wall. Not completely destroy it. Just create a breach point, a gap large enough for escape. Second wave, target key internal structures, guard areas, administrative sections, disrupt coordination, create confusion. Third wave, suppress response, delay reinforcements, force hesitation, buy seconds. Because seconds are everything. Everything revolves around sequence. Too early, prisoners are still locked inside. Walls break, but exits remain blocked. Too late, guards adapt, containment resumes. So timing is calculated down to the second. Each aircraft is assigned speed approach, angle, release point. Pilots memorize distances like equations. A tree line equals 3 seconds. A road intersection equals 2 seconds. A rooftop equals release marker. There is no digital system, only human memory and pressure. Standard bombs aren't enough. Impact detonation would scatter energy outward, wasted force. So they use delayed fuses. The bomb hits, penetrates, then explodes. This directs the blast inside the structure, breaking walls from within. But this creates a new risk. If penetration goes too deep, the explosion happens inside occupied space. Cells, corridors, people. Getting to the target is a mission on its own. Flying low means no radar guidance, limited visibility, constant terrain awareness. Pilots navigate using rail lines, rivers, roads, landmarks that can be seen at speed. But weather complicates everything. Cloud cover lowers visibility, wind shifts trajectory, and there's no time to adjust. Because delay means prisoners get executed. This isn't just machinery, it's coordination between humans under extreme pressure. Pilots must trust intelligence reports, mission planners, each other, because once airborne, there is no communication that can fix mistakes, no real-time updates, no corrections from above, just execution. Even with all systems aligned, there's still one element that cannot be controlled: the prisoners themselves. The plan assumes they will run, that they will recognize the opportunity, that they will move toward the breach. But no one can guarantee that, because they don't know the plan, they don't know the timing, they don't even know if the explosion is rescue or execution. This entire operation depends on a single fragile idea: create just enough destruction to give survival a chance. Not certainty, not safety, just a window. Every component works, only if every other component works. If one pilot is late, timing collapses. If one bomb misses, the breach fails. If one wave breaks formation, the sequence is lost. This isn't a system designed for resilience. It's designed for perfection. And perfection doesn't exist in war. Which leads to the inevitable question: what happens when this system, built on precision, meets reality? Because no plan survives first contact. And this plan has no room to adapt. Before the first bomb ever falls, the mission is already failing. Not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, quietly, through friction. The plan demands visibility, clear sightlines, precise landmarks, exact timing. But northern France in February doesn't cooperate. Clouds hang low, fog rolls across fields, light shifts unpredictably. At low altitude, this isn't inconvenience, it's blindness. A pilot flying at 400 kilometers per hour cannot rely on instruments alone. They need to see. A missed landmark means a delayed release. A delayed release means a missed wall. And a missed wall means the mission collapses before it begins. So, the first launch window comes, and it's rejected. Not because the plan is wrong, but because nature refuses to align. Time passes, and inside the prison, the execution clock keeps ticking. Even with acceptable weather, the route itself becomes a problem. Low-altitude flight removes one advantage: overview. Pilots can't see far ahead. They react in real time. Rail lines look like roads. Roads disappear under snow. Rivers blend into terrain. At high altitude, mistakes can be corrected. At low altitude, there is no correction. One wrong turn, and the aircraft arrives seconds too early or too late, which, in this mission, is the same as failure. So, crews rehearse. Maps are studied obsessively. Landmarks memorized like lifelines. But memorization isn't certainty, because at speed, recognition becomes guesswork. German defenses aren't passive. They adapt. Radar picks up unusual movement. Low-level patterns trigger suspicion. Anti-aircraft positions prepare, not for a massive raid, but for something smaller, faster, harder to track, and more dangerous. Flak batteries don't need precision. They need presence. A shell exploding near a low-flying aircraft doesn't have to hit directly. It just needs to disrupt, force a pilot to adjust, break formation, introduce hesitation, and hesitation destroys timing. The deeper planners go, the more cracks appear. What if the first wave fails to breach the wall? What if debris blocks the exit? What if prisoners don't move? There are no backup options, no contingency paths, because every alternative leads to the same conclusion. There is no safe version of this mission. You either attempt the impossible, or you accept the outcome already in motion. And that realization changes something. Quietly, it removes the illusion of control. Pilots are trained, disciplined, experienced, but this mission demands something else, not just skill, perfection under pressure. They must fly at extreme low altitude, navigate visually, maintain speed, time release, avoid obstacles, ignore incoming fire, all at once, for several minutes that feel like seconds. Even the best pilots in the Royal Air Force know this. One small error, and the chain breaks. And when the chain breaks, people die. Not abstract casualties, not distant losses, specific people, inside specific cells, waiting for something they don't even know is coming. Every delay adds pressure. Every canceled attempt reduces options. Because intelligence doesn't pause, the execution schedule doesn't shift, and no one can confirm if prisoners have already been moved or already been killed. So planners face a paradox: wait for perfect conditions and risk being too late, or act under imperfect conditions and risk immediate failure. Neither option is acceptable, which means one of them will be chosen. There's one final variable, the one that can't be measured. Inside the prison, things are changing. New prisoners arrive, others disappear, guards rotate, protocols shift. The map the pilot studied is already outdated, and no one knows by how much, which means even a perfect strike might hit a reality that no longer exists. By the time the mission is ready, it is already compromised, not broken, but unstable, dependent on too many fragile factors, each one capable of failure, each one already showing signs of it. And yet, the mission is not canceled, because cancellation guarantees one outcome: execution, certainty, finality. Failure, at least, leaves room for something else. This is where the mindset changes. The mission is no longer about success. It becomes about probability, increasing the chance, however small, that something different happens, that someone escapes, that the network survives, even partially, and that shift leads to a moment, a decision point, where logic says stop, but something else pushes forward. Because at some point, someone looks at all the failures, all the risks, all the unknowns, and decides, do it anyway. But that decision comes with a cost. Because once it's made, there's no turning back. The plan is flawed. Everyone knows it. The pilots, the planners, the commanders signing off on it. No one believes this is clean, or safe, or even rational. And yet, the mission is still on the table, because something has changed. Not the conditions, the urgency. New intelligence arrives, not detailed, not perfect, but enough. Execution orders are confirmed. Soon. Not theoretical, not possible, certain. Which means every hour of delay translates into deaths that cannot be reversed. And suddenly, the calculation shifts. It's no longer, can we do this successfully? It becomes, can we afford not to try? There is no dramatic speech, no rallying cry, just a chain of approvals, quiet, efficient, final. Somewhere within the structure of the Royal Air Force, orders are signed. A mission that should not exist is now authorized, not because it guarantees success, but because it offers something else, a disruption, a fracture in an otherwise inevitable outcome. Briefing rooms don't feel heroic, they feel heavy. Maps spread across tables, lines drawn in pencil, timings repeated. Each pilot learns. Entry point, route target segment, release timing. But they also understand what isn't said. There will be no correction, no second pass, no rescue for the rescuers. Once they commit, they are alone. No one says it directly, but everyone feels it. This mission may kill the very people it's meant to save, and yet they will still fly it. Because the alternative, doing nothing, is no longer morally neutral. It's a decision too, one that guarantees outcome. This mission, at least, introduces uncertainty. Engines are checked, fuel calculated, bombs armed. Each aircraft carries not just explosives, but precision-dependent consequences. Pilots walk to their planes, no hesitation, but not because they're fearless, because the decision has already been made. The moment for doubt has passed. Runways stretch into gray sky. Engines roar, one by one, the mosquitoes lift. The de Havilland Mosquito doesn't climb high. It stays low, almost immediately, disappearing beneath cloud cover, beneath radar, beneath expectation. As they cross into occupied territory, something shifts again. There is no abort point anymore. Fuel calculations, timing windows, formation spacing, all of it locks them in. They cannot turn back without compromising the mission entirely. So they continue, not because everything is working, but because turning back guarantees failure. The landscape rushes past. Fields, roads, villages. Each landmark appears, then vanishes, exactly as planned, or close enough. Pilots count silently. Seconds, distances. Every calculation now lives in their heads. There are no instruments that can save them, only memory and execution. As the target approaches, there's one realization that settles in. Not fear, not panic, clarity. This mission isn't about control anymore. It's about commitment. Once the bombs drop, everything leaves their hands. Outcome becomes consequence. And ahead, the prison emerges. Walls rising, exact, real, no longer abstract, no longer theoretical. The moment has arrived, not for planning, not for debate, for action, because now there is only one thing left to do: release. The prison fills the windscreen. Too fast, too close, no time to think, only execution. The lead de Havilland Mosquito drops lower, almost skimming the ground. The outer wall rises ahead, gray, solid, unbreakable, until it isn't. Bomb bay doors open. A second stretches. Then, release. The aircraft surges forward, lighter. Behind it, a delayed silence. Then impact. A dull, heavy thud, followed by a shockwave that tears through concrete from the inside out. The wall doesn't explode outward. It cracks, then collapses. A section gives way, not clean, not perfect, but enough. A breach. Another mosquito comes in, same altitude, same speed, different target. Administrative block, guard coordination point. If the first strike creates escape, this one must create confusion. Release, impact, explosion. Windows shatter, roof lifts, smoke erupts. Inside, orders dissolve into noise, shouts overlap, commands break. For a few seconds, control disappears. Everything changes at once. Cells shake, dust falls from ceilings, locks rattle. Some doors burst open from pressure, others stay sealed. Prisoners freeze, then panic spreads. Some run immediately, toward the light, toward the breach. Others hesitate, not understanding, not believing. Is this rescue or execution? More aircraft, lower, faster, risk increasing with every second. German defenses wake up. Flak erupts, black bursts in the sky. Too close. One pilot adjusts, slightly off timing. Bombs release, just a fraction late. They still hit, but not perfectly. The explosion collapses part of an internal structure. Inside, that means bodies, not walls. Smoke floods corridors, debris blocks paths, but the breach holds, and that's all that matters, because now, movement begins. Dozens of prisoners run, some injured, some disoriented, all desperate. They reach the gap in the wall, climb over rubble, slip, fall, get up, run. Guards recover faster than expected, weapons raised, shots fired. The open ground becomes a killing zone. Escape isn't free, it's contested. Some prisoners make it through the breach, only to fall meters later. Others turn back, trapped between fire and collapse. Pilots see fragments, smoke columns, moving shapes, but they can't distinguish outcomes. They don't know who's escaping, who's dying. They only know the sequence must continue, so they commit, again and again. One aircraft flies too low, too fast, no margin left. A slight miscalculation, and it doesn't pull up in time. Impact, fireball, gone. No recovery, no second chance. The cost is immediate, visible, irreversible. The last bombs fall, the sequence ends. Silence tries to return, but can't, because the prison is no longer a prison. It's a rupture. Walls broken, structures damaged, control shattered, but not destroyed. What remains? Some prisoners are outside, running into open fields, free, for now. Others are still inside, trapped, injured, or already gone. And the guards, they are still there, regaining control, reasserting order. This isn't a clean victory. It isn't a failure either. It's something in between, messy, incomplete, real. Because the mission didn't choose who survived. It created a moment, and let chaos decide the rest. The mosquitoes disappear into the distance, low again, fast again, leaving behind smoke and unanswered outcomes. And on the ground, amid rubble, fire, and gunshots, one question lingers. Did they save lives, or just change the way those lives were lost? When the smoke settles, the numbers begin to form. Not immediately, not cleanly, because nothing about this mission was clean. The prison at Amiens is no longer intact. Sections of the outer wall are gone. Administrative buildings damaged. Internal blocks fractured. But it still stands, partially functional, partially broken, like the outcome itself. Hundreds of prisoners had been inside. After the attack, over 200 escape. Some disappear into nearby fields. Others reach safe houses. A few reconnect with resistance networks. For them, the mission worked. Not perfectly, but enough. But escape wasn't universal. Dozens are killed in the bombing. Others die in the crossfire during the escape. Some are recaptured within hours. And inside the prison, many never make it out at all. The same explosions that broke the walls also took lives. Allied lives. The ones the mission was meant to save. The aircraft return. Not all of them. Losses are confirmed. Crews who executed their role perfectly never make it back. Their part in the mission ends in silence. No adjustment, no correction, just absence. From a military perspective, the outcome is ambiguous. Yes, prisoners escaped. Yes, some resistance members survived, but the prison wasn't destroyed completely. German control wasn't eliminated, and the network, it wasn't fully restored. Only preserved, partially. And then there's the question no report can fully answer. Was this truly a rescue? Or was it also a prevention? Because among those inside were individuals who carried sensitive information. If they had been interrogated, the consequences could have spread far beyond one prison. So by destroying part of that system, the mission may have done two things at once. Saved some lives, silenced others. This is where the story stops being about tactics and becomes something else. Because most missions measure success in territory or enemy losses. This one measured success in uncertainty. It created a chance, a window, and accepted that not everyone would make it through. On one side, a structured system, control, predictable outcomes. On the other, speed, precision, calculated chaos. The Germans controlled the environment. The British controlled a moment. And in that moment, they forced reality to shift. Not completely, but enough to change trajectories. Operation Jericho wasn't a perfect mission. It wasn't even a clean success. It was something rarer. A mission where failure was expected. Success was partial, and the outcome remained contested. Because in the end, the bombs didn't decide who lived. The plan didn't guarantee survival, and the mission didn't resolve the war. It did something smaller, and more human. It gave people trapped in a system designed to end them a single violent opportunity to choose their own fate. And maybe that's the part that lingers, not the explosions, not the strategy, but the decision behind it. Because someone, somewhere, looked at a prison full of their own people and decided breaking the walls, even at the cost of lives, was better than leaving them untouched. And that raises a question that doesn't belong to history. It belongs to us. When survival itself becomes uncertain, how much destruction are we willing to accept in the name of freedom?